coming to sit meditation, we begin by holding the body erect, establishing sati, mindfulness in the present moment. Not letting our thoughts get concerned or agitated with regard to the past, not worrying about the future, leaving these behind and allowing our mind to rest in the present. Bringing our awareness to this physical body here and now. We experience the breath. The breath is one part of the body. Establishing mindfulness of the in-breath. Breath coming in. Mindfulness of the out-breath. Breath going out. We can pick up as a mantra, recite mentally the word Bud on the in-breath, Do on the out-breath. Breathing in Bud, breathing out Do. Not letting thoughts and distractions, things which bind up the mind, things which lead away from freedom to enter our minds, to overcome us. But establishing oneself clearly and firmly in the practice of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. Breathing in, we know the in-breath. Breathing out, we know the out-breath. Breathing in long, we know we breathe in long. Breathing out long, we know we're breathing out long. If we breathe in short, we know we're breathing in short. If we breathe out short, we know we're breathing out short. With continual self-awareness in this way, we establish a sense of great care and caution, restraining our minds. Homage to the Blessed, the Noble, and perfectly enlightened One. I bow to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. Namatu Acharyasa. I pay respect to all the enlightened teachers. Yo Dhammang Passati, So Mang Passati. The one who sees the Dhamma, this person will see the Buddha. And now I ask permission from the Sangha to speak on Dhamma. I extend my blessings, my greetings to everybody gathered here today with based on great interest and keenness to practice the Dhamma. May you grow in Dhamma, may you grow in happiness. Dhamma practice is the role, or is an important task of being a manusa, a true human being. You probably understand this word manusa has the connotations of a person with a mind developed in wholesome qualities, spiritual qualities. Our lives are bound up with the physical matter, the human body. So there's the aspect of the human, of being human, which is simply the physical. This aspect of physical matter, our physical bodies, can be looked at as the foundation or the vehicle with which we practice Dhamma practice and train our minds. And our Dhamma practice has to be very circumspect. We have to have an all-round clear awareness. And so we practice and develop the qualities of mind which the Buddha said are of great benefit, the upakara dhamma, sati and sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension. If we're all round, circumspect, mindful and clear comprehending, then knowledge and vision, awareness of what is beneficial will arise. And that which is beneficial, we will nurture and foster those things and support them. Anything which is dangerous, which is harmful to us, those things we must abandon. And for this we have to have sati, mindfulness, these mental qualities which are of great benefit. There are people in our lives who have been of great benefit to us. The people who brought us forth into this world, our parents, and looked after us, provided us with everything we needed. As we grew as children, they renounced and made sacrifices, never feeling that these were difficult to do for us. Our parents had metta, loving kindness, and so much warmth and affection for us. And in this way, our bodies were able to grow and mature. And furthermore, our parents gave us our early teachings, certain knowledge and understanding with regard to life. So these people too, this is an example of people who have been very useful or important in our lives. The mental qualities which are useful and important, like parents, is sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension. We have to use these qualities to see very clearly what things lead away from freedom. And those things that lead away from freedom must be abandoned. A simple summary of the Dhamma is to abandon evil and do good. This is the foundation for somebody who lives a life of metta, loving kindness. These are the principles, you could say, the summary of the ideals of the task we have at hand as Dhamma practitioners. Sabbapa pasakaranam means to avoid all evil. Kusalasu pasampada means to do only that which is good. Sajjita pariyotapanam, to cultivate the mind, to purify the mind. So this is a whole summary, a brief, pithy summary of our whole Dhamma practice regarding actions, how to train ourselves regarding actions of body, speech and mind. But in order for this to really come to benefit, not only do we have to know what is beneficial, we have to do those things which are beneficial. And knowing those things which are harmful, we have to abandon them as well. So we have to know both those aspects of our lives which are good and evil. Both these things, good and evil, things which are beneficial and unbeneficial, don't come from anywhere else other than right here within us. All evil in our lives comes from our own unskillful minds and manifests as unwholesome actions. So we have to know both good and bad. The mind can be wholesome at times, very wholesome. We call this kusala. It can be like our mind can be like our parents, with a spirit of renunciation, giving up and loving kindness. But we have to train the mind to know what is good and what is unwholesome, and to know how the unwholesome expresses itself as well. Goodness manifests as freedom from suffering, freedom from irritation and all defilements. The akusala, the unwholesome or the bad, manifests as dukkha, suffering, lack of freedom, irritation, negativity, and in time enmity and hatred everywhere. So the Buddha taught, this is why the Buddha taught that with great mindfulness we have to observe very carefully and follow our mind, our thoughts and our moods. So that's why he said, Yo Dhamma Passati Somam Passati. One who sees the Dhamma, that person will see me, will see enlightenment. So in order to see this, you have to have mindfulness and clear comprehension, clearly observe and follow the mind, its thoughts, its feelings. The mind has no physical body or physical form. Our bodies you can describe, you could say 6 foot tall, for example. But the mind expresses itself not physically, but in terms of positive and negative moods or thoughts, delight and aversion, liking and disliking. Delight, technical word for it is apicca. Aversion we can call this patigga, the patigga anusaya, the latent tendency to aversion or hatred. So we have, with mindfulness, we can observe these states, very, very careful, simply watching them, not acting on account of them, because if we act, for example, with aversion or hatred, then this leads to our difficulties in society. This isn't a way of acting which is praised or appreciated. But instead we see our mind simply as sankharas, means conditioned phenomena, bound up, supported by causes and conditions. And the mind of delight and aversion is what we call the apunyabhi sankhara, an unwholesome or unmeritorious intentional volitional action. It doesn't lead to any happiness or peace of mind, only leads to suffering, a sense of dis-ease. Contemplate with mindfulness how suffering feels. Dukkha. Dukkha feels hot. When the mind is not at ease, then it's not peaceful. So we can observe this heat with mindfulness and clear comprehension and consider whatever arises must pass away. If we see our dukkha, our suffering like this, then we'll see that in this very heat there lies coolness. Wherever there's dukkha, there must be sukha. Wherever there's suffering, therein happiness must be found. And so we can see this as the natural state of our minds, of the mental realm. If we can label or give a name to this type of mindfulness practice, we can call it the Vedana Vipassana Satipatthana, the way of developing the foundation of mindfulness based on contemplation of feelings, Vedana. Contemplating our feelings, we can use the words sukha, happiness, and dukkha, suffering, as the words to describe it. This is just how we use language. But if we still haven't developed our minds, we'll always see that any sukha that arises will attach to this as us and ours. Any dukkha, the suffering, also will see it as us and ourselves. But if we train to see the process in line with reality, we'll see the truth of the law of nature. We'll see the role that this truth of nature plays. In time we'll see the mind and thoughts as just aspects of nature arising and passing away, and we'll be able to let go of this attachment to our minds. We'll no longer be bound up and attached with desire. We'll see the truth of Dhamma. This leads to a mood of letting go, the fading of attachment, and so there's no longer tension, holding, anxiety. The mind is at ease. So this is the natural result of training in mindfulness and clear comprehension. Contemplate the mind. Another word for the mind is loka, the world. All these feelings and thoughts and moods, this is just the world arising and passing away. Dukkha Vedana, suffering, feelings of suffering. Sukha Vedana, pleasant feelings. Somanasa, joy. Domanasa, grief. This is just all aspects of the world. And these overwhelm and overpower people who still lack the sufficient internal strength or an internal immune system because of lacking sati sampajanya. So for this reason we train ourselves in anapanasati, aware of the breath coming in and the breath coming out. This is one aspect of our training to develop ourselves to be endowed with sati, mindfulness. These dhammas which are of great use, sati, sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension, we have to do what we can to support them and give rise to them. One way to do this is to develop mindfulness in all postures. Whether if we're sitting, be mindful, aware that we're sitting. Whether we're walking, have mindfulness of walking. Standing, be mindful that we're standing, etc. So with mindfulness as our foundation in practice, then we can contemplate and see this aspect of our life which is burdensome, where there's burdens in our life. We do this by observing and contemplating the body. We call this kaya kata sati, mindfulness of the body. Having these bodies, then we have certain duties, burdens with regard looking after the body. These burdens can be a great obstacle, and the body is even something which can give rise to much delusion, the delusion of this attachment to the body. So we have to learn how to look after and tend to the body in a way which isn't overly burdensome, just enough to keep the body healthy. And so this is one aspect of our Dhamma practice, just to understand how to relate to the external world and what we call the pacchai, the external supports in life. So the Buddha taught us to use the body in a way which is not burdensome, in a way which doesn't lead away from our freedom, just to support the body moderately with just the bare necessities. Otherwise, we're all constantly anxious and concerned with regard looking after our bodies, and so our life will get very confused and chaotic. Dhamma practice should not lead to anxiety. It should lead away from worry. So, for example, here in the monastery, we train ourselves just to eat one meal a day in the morning before noon. Some people object to this or might be worried, thinking that's not enough. But actually, the body always adapts to the environment and to changing conditions. We all know, we're all used to relating to the external environment and different temperatures. Sometimes the temperature is low, sometimes it's high. If the temperature goes down, then it's cool, becomes cool. But the body can adapt. When the temperature goes up, then the body adapts as well. So these are just various things bound up with our daily life. Take the passage of time. In the evening it gets dark. Our nervous system adapts to that. Our mind and body relax. This leads to a certain peace. We incline towards being still and we lie down at night. During the day, the body is stimulated by the light, sunlight, and so the body adapts as well. It becomes poised for action. It becomes stimulated and tenses up and is strengthened. So this is how the body adapts physically. Using our requisites, the external supports in our life, also we have to train ourselves to adapt, to get used to new things, changing situations, and learn to be able to flow in line with causes and conditions that we find ourselves in life. But this is something that people often find difficult to do. It's difficult to tolerate, is changing causes, changing experience based on sense contact, the external world. So for example, often if we see something, we can get very much caught up with it with a mind of desire, if we want it a lot. So this is something we can observe. This mind of desire, this is an expression of the mind or our moods or mental states which has arisen. We can see this, and we have to have patient endurance. If we don't have patient endurance, then we won't be inwardly strong. We won't be able to resist things in the external world. And this is a danger. This is the danger of somebody who doesn't have sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension. We have to endure things like hunger, thirst, cold, heat. If our mind is deluded, then we get agitated on account of these things. So we have to train away from agitation. One of our very important principles is the principle of moderation. The Buddha taught that bhojane matannita, moderation in consumption or moderation in eating, is, he called it an appannaka Dhamma. It's a principle which is always correct. It's incontrovertible. So this means the principle is to be moderate, but also learn how to use food or requisites in a way where we're not unnecessarily concerned by them. Clothing, just to relate to clothing as that which protects us from heat and cold and insects, etc. The practice for monastics to help us let go of clothing is to use cloth for our robes, which is undesirable, that usually people wouldn't want to use. Using what we call refuse cloth that's been abandoned, or cloth which has been used to wrap up corpses so that it's stained. When you use this kind of cloth to make your robes, then there's no delight or sense of pleasure or infatuation with the cloth arises. So this is called developing a patikula sanya, the perception of the unbeautiful or the foul. So we learn to see everything in life as not stable and incapable of ultimately satisfying us. It's not intrinsically desirable. And using these practices, we're able to abandon the conceit I am and let go of the sense of self. No longer seeking pleasure and fun-seeking, which ultimately are the basis or the cause for more suffering and attachment in life. And loka dhammas, these worldly dhammas arising. No longer constantly comparing, am I better than somebody else? Am I worse than somebody else? Are they as good as me? So we train ourselves to be aloof or restrained or not attached to ourselves, not attached to our bodies. Otherwise we'll always be anxious. With sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension, we can abandon delight and find peace. We have a body, but be aloof or unattached to the body. See the body as just elements of nature. There's no actual person there, there's no individual, there's no real being in there. So this is the meaning or the way of practicing kaya kata sati, mindfulness of the body, or mindfulness gone to the body. Sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension, is one primary aspect of the Dhammas which lead to enlightenment. It's very much a part of the Bodhipakkhya Dhammas. There's a group, a list of teachings grouped in various categories, often translated as the wings to awakening, or the wings of liberation, also called the liberation Dhammas. This is a Dhamma, that Sati Sampajanya is a quality which leads to enlightenment, leads to release. The Bodhipakkhya Dhammas is a list of qualities which lead to the arising of our completeness as human beings. It's like the fruition of our potential as manusas, true human beings. They lead to enlightenment. This list encompasses the 4 foundations of mindfulness, 4 satipatthanas, the 4 samapadanas, the 4 right efforts, the 4 iddhipadas, the roads to success, the 5 indriyas, the spiritual faculties, and the 5 balas, the 5 powers, the 7 bojjhangas, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the Eightfold Path. These are the spiritual qualities which lead to enlightenment, the Mokkha Dhamma, the Dhamma of liberation. Also could be summarized as sila, virtue, samadhi, concentration, and panya, wisdom, all of which is bound up with liberation, vimutti. So if we give these things great importance in our lives, we'll see how to develop all-round awareness. Just in the same way that with regard to the physical body in life, we learn how to eat in a way which is good for our health. It's the same with the mind. We develop mindfulness and carefully observe and carefully aware of our minds and thoughts. Ye cittang sanime santi mo kanti marabandhanam, which means one who closely follows and is aware of his thoughts. This person will go beyond Mara's snare, the snare or the bounds of all that's evil and unwholesome, undefiled states, suffering. Another teaching the Buddha gave Moggaraja was to contemplate the mind as empty, constantly see the mind, see the world as empty. And when we observe the world as void or empty of intrinsic existence, then we can let go. The mind is peaceful. There's no heat anymore, the mind is cool. With mindfulness and clear comprehension, we won't fall under the sway of unwholesome states of mind, wrong thinking, miccha-ditthi, wrong understanding, those thoughts which are bound up with unwholesomeness, which lead to suffering. Buddha means enlightenment or awakening. Buddha, an awakening arises in many ways, in many different aspects. We can talk about the Pacceka Buddha, a person who, for their own self and through their own understanding, sees truth and their mind becomes cool. There are Savaka Buddhas, people who attain to enlightenment or awaken having heard. They listen to teachings, they follow the instructions, and their minds become cool. There are Sutta Buddhas who just very quickly, with just perhaps one teaching or just seeing another enlightened person, knowledge and vision arises, they see truth and become cool. There are also Sapanyu Buddhas, enlightened people who are able to live of great benefit for others because they can see very clearly where other people are at and teach, and according to their needs have an omniscience. So whatever type of awakening, whenever we awaken from our wrong thinking or erroneous ways of thinking, then this leads to true safety in our lives. So we must all nurture or foster mindfulness and clear comprehension in order to make ourselves a refuge. With sila, virtue in our lives will be pure. Having mindfulness means taking responsibility for one's own journey to peace. Right view is that which leads away from agitation of oneself and the agitation for others. All these dhammas, all these qualities are a benefit in this life and the next. So the Buddha praised the Dhamma practitioner who lives a life which is beneficial for himself and others. This is what we call the spiritual qualities of a good person. So all of us here practicing Dhamma, we have to understand nature. We have to understand the process of the mind and the body arising and passing away and let go. Sabbe sankhara anicca. This means all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Everything that arises just passes away in line with nature. And seeing this leads to freedom. This leads to the mind which is truly peaceful. And this is the truest or the highest spiritual qualities we can aspire to. So on this occasion we've come together as a group, but whether you're practicing as a group or whether you're alone, we have to do the right thing, not make mistakes or not be heedless. So today I have nothing much to offer you, just to give you all some encouragement, seeing as we've come together as a group. I encourage you to cultivate a mind which is to cultivate being a refuge unto yourselves. Atta hi attano nato. Self is the refuge of self. And when you see this, then you'll see that everything that is good in the world, everything that is good which you can possibly aspire to, lies within yourself, not elsewhere. So we can foster and develop these qualities within us, so as to lead lives of great benefit for oneself and other people. So I've probably said enough for this evening, and I'll end my Dhamma talk there.